Folks, we are in week 6 and in the heart of the second section of the class, looking at flaws in the contract. Again, the question we're engaging is, if we have an agreement that appears to satisfy all three elements of a contract, offer, acceptance, and consideration, might it nonetheless be unenforceable because it has any of a number of flaws? We started last week with the statute of frauds, perhaps the most obvious potential flaw. And then we went into two related concepts, mutual misunderstanding and indefinite terms. Closely related as they are, we struggled to understand the differences between them. Hard to draw bright lines, but we toyed with some ways that we might use them in different contexts. This week, we're going to further complicate that analysis. We're going to introduce two more terms that are closely related to mutual misunderstanding and indefinite terms, and those are misrepresentation and mistake. So we will have four closely related concepts: mutual misunderstanding, indefinite terms, misrepresentation, and mistake. It's going to be something of a brain teaser to try to keep these straight. At very least, we can understand the different doctrines as they're stated, and we can wrestle with the question of how we would apply them in different fact patterns, which apply more or less naturally in which factual scenarios. When we look at misrepresentation, I want you to keep two distinctions in mind. The first is between the knowing and the unknowing misrepresentation. I might knowingly say something that is false. I also might say something that is false unknowingly. That is, I didn't know it was false when I said it. Should the law of contracts treat those different representations differently? A second distinction is between a statement and a non-disclosure. I might say something that is false. I also might not say something that you would expect me to say, or that you might argue I have an obligation to say. I might be withholding critical information, material information. So those two distinctions will help, if you keep them present in your mind, they will help you navigate through this fairly muddled terrain of misrepresentation placed in the context of these other four concepts. And then we get to mistake. If you and I negotiate an agreement and we later learn that we were mistaken as to the very nature of the thing we had agreed to, you'll see that the classic example of this is a contract for the sale of a cow, which was thought to be barren and turned out to be pregnant. Well, what you may not know is that pregnant cows are worth vastly more money than barren cows. If we are negotiating an agreement mistaken as to the fundamental nature of the thing we are negotiating to sell, who bears the cost? What then do we do with the agreement? We'll wrestle with all these concepts, and by the end of this week, we will at least know what we don't know. And we will see how these four concepts can become complicated, but we can still learn to use them effectively. Looking forward.